Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Hi, everybody. Merry Christmas. Again, this will probably be the last episode of the year. However, I'm fortunate enough here in the future, hopefully, to have a conversation with gubernatorial candidate Casey Putsch in Ohio here. I reached out to his campaign, said, hey, man, if you want to come on the show, feel free. And they said, absolutely. So we're working that out right now, I believe. And again, when we have that conversation, I will quickly put it together and bring it to you the very same day. So I'm not sure when that's going to take place exactly, but whenever it does, I will bring it to you the exact same day. And again, if you're hooked in with all the notifications and things like that, then of course the show will pop up and you'll be able to listen to it then. Anyway, I plan on talking with him a little bit about education and picking his brain on that subject. Same with taxation. Certainly in the state of Ohio, property taxes are through the roof. Revaluing property taxes are also a massive problem, and it's remarkably corrupt how that's being done. Reached out to a friend, and we had a conversation about that just the other day, and he said, hey, when you talk to him, ask him about this. Get his take on that. I said, absolutely, I will. And yeah. Not to mention, I happened to stumble across a Federalist article the other day, and again, they're pretty conservative, to say the least, and they were going after Vivek Ramaswamy, which is good news. So hopefully more people again start to turn on Vivek and stop believing, the blind sort of Obama-style talk, I'm here for you, I promise, I grew up around here, went to school here jargon. There's more to it than that. Ohio's in deep trouble, just like every state is theoretically in very deep trouble. Property taxes are going up, income taxes going up. I'm glad, again, gas prices are going down. And of course, I think the next 6 months are going to have a great deal to say about the state of affairs here, not only in Ohio, of course, but all across the country. So we'll see where everything pans out. But again, looking forward to that conversation. Again, he's certainly an Ohioan, and he's certainly an American, and he gives a damn. And that matters. And we need that around here. We need more of it. So anyway, again, when that conversation takes place, I'll bring it to you the exact same day. Okay. Here we go. Interesting congressional moves taking place, I think, just the other day. Congress passed a bill here basically stating that gender mutilation is a felony and should be, and that doctors, quote unquote, which really they're not doctors if they're engaging in such practices, that they can basically, again, lose their licenses and be designated as felons and be charged if they engage in those particular practices, which of course are satanic, and it's not healthcare, as a lot of these deranged individuals would want one to believe. In fact, let me play a short little clip here of one of these representatives who's completely deranged. Democrat Becca Balint, if that's her real name, this was on Libs of TikTok, says that the mutilation of children in the name of gender ideology is safe and effective, quote unquote, and calls Republicans creepy for wanting to stop it. Now, I've mentioned this before I play this just quick little 40-second clip, which again, it's not necessarily anything new. This is the angle they've decided to take. They actually believe that because we are concerned with gay books in school and we want them gone and burned and to never exist ever again, because we're focused on that among 1,000 other things, and because we're focused on what the real short-term and long-term ramifications are of gender identity nonsense, confusion, and of course genital mutilation, that they believe that we are sex-crazed individuals. Again, they were given a memo to actually take that angle. So much so that even local nitwits seem to believe that that's the case with me. That because I've brought that up on the show before, they say, well, he must have some serious sexual problems because he's focused in on this particular issue. First of all, I'm focused on 1,000 issues. What's funny is that the NPCs don't seem to understand that wavelength of thought, that angle of a rationalization of an argument to justify them being okay cutting off the genitals of both men and then the breasts of women and or XYZ or however you want to shake it up. That all of that somehow defends their particular take on all of that by then again attempting to what? Humiliate us or make fun of us, and that the only reason that we're bringing it up is because we're sexually inadequate or that we ourselves are perverse. It's completely ridiculous. It makes zero sense. They don't say it about any other subject, that if a person is concerned with automobiles and the efficiency of automobiles and malpractice with whatever, automotive technology or automotive engineering or XYZ, that somehow we want to have sex with an automobile and we're crazed sex addicts. No, that's not it. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with those who are moral versus those who are not. But this is, again, the line item memo that they've been given to say from both Washington, D.C., right down into a deranged person's living room in a small town. Give this Representative Balint a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Even for Republicans, this is extreme. Are we really attempting to lock up parents and doctors? Your kids' medical care is none of their damn business. We should call this obsession with your kids and what treatment they're getting in the pediatrician's office what it is. It's creepy. It's a creepy obsession, and we've had to deal with it for years. The science is clear. Evidence-based, medically necessary care for transgender youth is safe, it's effective, it's supported by every major medical association in the United States, including the American Medical Association and the American Academy of Pediatrics.
It's safe and effective. For what exactly? For whom exactly? Again, you know that I wrote that Substack article a long time ago, is well over a year, maybe 2 years ago, about the long-term, short-term ramifications of all of this wavelength of thought, in particular when it comes to the surgeries that take place. That all of it, again, is designed to not only sexually groom and sexually confuse, because sexual confusion is sexual grooming. It's being done for the purposes of, again, taking advantage of them physically and sexually. And then, of course, leading to depression, drug addiction, sexual promiscuity, and then ultimately self-harm and suicide, either with a weapon or through taking pills, drug addiction, you name it, violent behavior, 1,000 other things. That's the entire short-term and long-term goal of all of this, because it's satanic, because they're Satanists. The people who support this kind of thing are Satanists, whether they want to tell you that or not. So no, it's not some obsession that we have about what deranged parents do to their deranged children, or deranged parents do to their normal children in an effort to make them as crazy as the parents are. It's not an obsession. It's a very deliberate honing in on that kind of satanic behavior to get rid of it. That's it. But when you have female or male representatives attempting to, again, cater to whatever it is, less than 1%, it's far less than even that of the kinds of people that engage in this kind of behavior, both with themselves as adults or with their own children, that when you cater to that low of a percentage, you're giving yourself away as not being, of course, America first, let alone a moral human being. You're disgusting. In fact, posted below that is a rather interesting meme and undeniable, to say the least. This has to do with known side effects of puberty-suppressing drugs. Again, it's satanic because it's designed to keep the normal functioning of the human body the way that God intended, and to disrupt that by any means necessary, and then normalize that insanity. The normalizing of this kind of insanity, of course, is just that, satanic. So, this has to do with, again, known side effects of puberty-suppressing drugs. Skeletal system, it says loss of bone mineral density, lowered peak BMD, bone mineral density, osteoporosis and osteopenia, increased risk of fractures, decreased bone turnover, and periodontal disease. That's just the skeletal system. It goes through basically every body system here. Cardiovascular and diabetes risk, increased risk of heart attack, heart disease, and stroke, diabetes mellitus, metabolic syndrome, lowered resting heart rate, high blood pressure, weight gain and increased percentage body fat, insulin resistance and higher glycemic markers, arterial stiffness and arterial plaque, vasculitis, and angina, or severe chest pain. As far as eyes are concerned, cataracts in teenagers. Wrap your head around that one. Thyroid, impaired thyroid function, changes in TSH, FT3 and FT3, FT4 ratios, hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, and thyroiditis. Yeah, not good. Autoimmunity, increases in natural killer cells, increased risk of autoimmune disease, thyroid autoimmunity, and autoimmune disease in the gut. AIDS. Onto the digestive system and urinary tract, frequent urination, bloody urine, constipation, and poor gut motility, nausea and vomiting, chronic intestinal pseudo-obstruction. As far as the brain is concerned, intracranial hypertension, increased risk of tumors, seizures, pituitary tumors, and pituitary apoplexy. Reproductive system and sexuality, low libido and chemical castration, lack of reproductive development, regression of sexual development, penile shortening, infertility, vaginal dryness, vaginal bleeding, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Delightful. Cognitive and mental health, lowered intelligence and IQ, well, including the people pushing this very thing, memory loss, impaired working memory, impaired attention, executive function, and visual spatial ability, increased risk of dementia, anxiety and depression, insomnia and other sleep disorders, increased emotional reactivity, increased suicidality, there we go, psychosis, and mania. Fun. Pain and discomfort, you don't say. Hot flashes, headaches and migraines, injection site pain, sterile abscesses, injection site granulomas, fibromyalgia, muscle spasms, nerve joint and bone pain, and finally abdominal pain. But hey, at least you'll be a supportive parent because your kid thinks that he's a boy or a girl when they're not. Again, government is not the parent, nor should they ever be. But the parents who believe that government is better than they are, well, this is what government will do to your child. And of course, those parents will support it because they believe that they are gullible and government knows more than they do. Because remember, you're not a doctor. How do you know this isn't healthcare? Again, it's 1984. It's Orwell's 84 all over again, tricking you into believing that chemical castration and genital mutilation is healthcare. And if you criticize it, then you're somehow some sex-crazed, sex-deprived sexual deviant. It's upside down, backwards, and inside out because, unfortunately, that's exactly what they believe, that everything needs to be backwards, upside down, and inside out. They don't trick the knowledgeable. They're only tricking themselves. Again, isn't it interesting that a Democrat will never, of course, reach out to anybody where all of this gender fluid nonsense actually backfired on all of them? Of course, it backfires on everybody, but it's fascinating, I think, that they, of course, never reach out to those individuals, let alone give them a voice, because those people exist. The parents of children who decided again to engage in these ridiculous satanic practices of chemical castration and genital mutilation, and then all of a sudden their kid kills themselves. So who speaks on their behalf? I mean, they have to live with that regret of going along with this lie forever. But Democrats in particular are so blind about all of this that it doesn't matter again how many so-called Republicans or whomever come up to a lectern or invite individuals up to a lectern to give a talk about how they once believed all of this to be a good thing. cutting off your breasts or pretending to be something you're not, to have those individuals only again openly describe their regret and how they fell for this entire satanic lie. Again, if politicians or anybody for that matter wants to die on that hill, I say go for it. It's the smallest hill in the history of hills that has the least people standing on it. So if that's the one you want to politically die on, mutilating children and then claiming that it's healthcare, be my guest. It's not going to work out for you. Here's RFK describing some of this and the plans moving forward in 3, 2, 1.
Doctors assume a solemn obligation to protect children. Yet doctors across the country now provide needless and irreversible sex-rejecting procedures that violate their sacred Hippocratic oath by endangering the very lives that they are sworn to safeguard. The American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, peddled the lie that chemical and surgical sex-rejecting procedures could be good for children who suffer from gender dysphoria. They betrayed the estimated 300,000 American youth ages 13 to 17, conditioned to believe that sex can be changed. They betrayed their Hippocratic oath to do no harm. So-called gender-affirming care has inflicted lasting physical and psychological damage on vulnerable young people. This is not medicine, it is malpractice. We're done with junk science driven by ideological pursuits, not the well-being of children. A peer-reviewed report published by the HHS Office of the Assistant Secretary for Health last month confirms that sex-rejecting procedures impose medical dangers and lasting harm on children who receive these interventions. So today we are taking 6 decisive actions, guided by gold standard science and the week 1 executive order from President Trump to protect children from chemical and surgical mutilation. This morning, I signed a declaration. Sex-rejecting procedures are neither safe nor effective treatment for children with gender dysphoria.
And if you're a parent who supports gender dysphoria, well, then you're deranged too and mentally ill too, and you should be institutionalized also. The end. It's pretty simple. Okay, with that aside, very quickly here, let me move on to this. Just a couple of comments about some of the things that have been taking place here, of course, during this week, specifically in Washington, D.C. I understand a great deal of the criticism again. It's this old yarn that keeps coming back, but I would encourage individuals to look at these particular things from a separate angle, as I think others would as well. It clearly shows again that there was a congressional bill that it was apparently passed that gives $900 billion to Ukraine and Israel, or that it's divided up in that fashion. At face value, that looks like that's happening. However, given the fact that we are a country at war, both, again, literally and on paper, legally, and executive order allows for this as well, the President of the United States, without telling anybody, can repurpose that money. If he actually signs it into an actual spending bill of some kind, he can reappropriate it any way he sees fit. So it looks like money is going to Israel. It looks like money is going to Ukraine. That doesn't necessarily mean that that is the case. I would encourage people to just keep that in mind. Now, if it actually is going to those countries blindly, with no line item purchase order of what actually is going, what that money rather is going to be spent on, then we have a problem. But until people are told exactly what it's being spent on or where it's actually going, I wouldn't believe it just because Congress passes it. And I wouldn't believe it just because it's a breaking news headline on a particular news outlet. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case. So again, I would just encourage people to understand that yes, it looks terrible, but maybe that's part of the wake-up process. is to make it look like it's happening when in fact it isn't. I'm not the only one that shares that particular sentiment. I would just say again, it's highly possible that that's the case. Now, with that aside, and like I said, if it's not the case and there's no kayfabe involved, then yes, it sucks. And that's not America first, and we don't like that. That should go without saying. Then it begs the question, what are you going to do about it? And the answer is nothing. Nobody's going to do anything about it. You can't claw that money back if it's really going to Israel or Zelensky or whomever, whichever other Khazarian mafia individual you want to pick. You're not going to claw that money back, neither am I. But again, what this requires is a remembering of how we got here and what's really going on. And what makes anybody believe, again, that we have it all figured out, or that Donald Trump and those around him, certainly the military, don't really understand what's actually happening. I have a feeling that they know exactly what's happening. Again, it's Hanukkah week, quote unquote. Okay? Every single year on Hanukkah week, everybody basically does what they always do in Washington, D.C., and everybody knows it. Yes, I don't like it, and I wish it would stop because, again, a great deal of these people are not Jewish. Again, a lot of them invite these individuals who are to celebrate in the White House. They even apparently came over to J.D. Vance's house, had a little shindig over there, all the small hats and everybody else. Again, it's not a good look at face value because that's not what we want to see. Again, it makes it look like they're catering to the smallest of the minorities. Again, we're not interested in that. However, there's the angle of keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And it would require an individual to say, well, there's no way that Donald Trump believes that any of these individuals are evil or are interested in, again, nonstop influence and or the takeover of the United States. It would also imply that an individual would have to completely ignore that the reason that we are in the state of affairs that we are in is because of the Jews. That is, again, it would require, and of course it's not all of them. We fully understand that, but it has to do with, again, a simple ignoring of facts and history. And I just do not believe for a minute that individuals in charge and individuals around the individuals in charge are ignoring the facts. We know who the problem is, but we also know exactly what would happen if a president of the United States gave an address on television at 9 o'clock at night, like the other night, for example, where he had, well, it wasn't him, but it was certainly people around him were telling other people, hey, look, he's going to declare war on Venezuela or Iran, or watch, he's going to pull us into war. Look how many people watched his address. He openly manipulated the entire Jewish media into believing that we were going to war, and then he pulled the rug out from underneath them, and that's not happening, because that's what they want. But again, it would require an individual to believe that he doesn't know who the real enemy is. I've brought up numerous examples on the show here. He's openly said that usury is illegal. He knows that it is. So again, what do? Do you go on national television and say Jews are the problem? They created usury, degradation, degenerate behavior, all the genital mutilation stuff that we're seeing, that's their creation because it's Satan's creation. Many of them worship Satan, certainly the Zionists and XYZ. Merry Christmas, everybody. Christ is King. Have a nice day. He's not going to say that because all hell would break loose in our country. All hell would break loose. But what you can do is you can pull the rug out from underneath them. You can pass a bill in Congress that says genital mutilation and catering to gender dysphoria and chemical castration is now a felony. You can do that. The Senate can hopefully pass that and Donald Trump can sign it. That's spitting in the face of the Khazarian mafia if I've ever seen it. That works for me. That's a step in the right direction. If he wants to hug Mark Levin and take more money from Miriam Adelson and trick those idiots into believing that he actually supports them, then fine. I mean, let him do it. Mark Levin has no pull. Mark Levin has no influence with anybody. He's a fat nobody. No one cares about him. No one watches his show. He's just an angry old Jewish guy. That's all. He gets to be. He gets to get an invite to the White House with his weird-looking wife standing next to him like, Mark's the greatest thing in the world. Okay, who cares? Who cares? Mark will go back home. He'll think that he's made an inroad or a difference someplace when he hasn't. He'll write another book reinventing the wheel, yet again, and no one will care. Because nobody cares. Again, J.D. Vance can have the small hats over at his house to dance a jig and do whatever the hell they do and light a candle or whatever else. Again, what's he going to do? Is he going to do the exact same thing and get on TV and say, you know what? They are the problem. He's not going to say that right now. But what we would like to see, at least I think, is we would like to see an American president and a vice president who are not Jewish, and people are like, Trump's a Jew. Well, I don't think so. But we would like them to just say, you know what? Not this year. We're good. But then again, look at all of the so-called fake violence that's been taking place toward the old Jays. And the whole anti-Semitism talk that's been stirred up almost, again, like clockwork, right on Sunday. Right on Saturday and Sunday, right before Hanukkah. Wasn't an accident. And again, was it done to influence them in a particular way? Or, well, now you have to invite us to your party. And now you have to have a party for us because if you don't, then you're basically taking the side of the enemy. One of these years, a president is just going to say no to the whole menorah lighting, let's invite the Jays to the White House and celebrate whatever weird thing they celebrate in XYZ. Eventually, that will stop. It'll have to. Because we're not interested in it, we don't want to see it, and it looks gross at face value. Unless, of course, it's a slow drip of exhaustion on the American people who are awake to wake up more Americans to basically say, why in the hell are you still doing this? This is, in fact, our enemy. This is the problem. These are the people who are responsible for sowing discord, not only here, but in every country. So again, there are a lot of questions with it, but I'm not one to necessarily believe the face value take. Again, after 8 days, whatever menorah is in Washington, D.C. will come down and a cross should be erected. Melania Trump is not Jewish. Certainly not as far as religion is concerned. I understand some people have said, and there's a bloodline to be drawn, that her father is Jewish, and that may be true, but either way, doesn't matter. She's a Christian. And so is, again, Donald Trump. He's indicated as much. So Mark Levin can be like, he's the first Jewish president. It's a tagline. It's just a slogan that Mark Levin uses to make it look like he's got his hooks in Donald Trump. I bet Donald Trump hates Mark Levin behind closed doors and, you know, when cameras aren't in his face, I bet he can't stand him. He's a leech. It doesn't seem, again, like Donald Trump's the kind of person who enjoys someone who clings on to him just because. Or because he wants something. Doesn't come across that way. So anyway, that's my little rant on that. It's just my 2 cents. Again, I could be wrong. I just don't look at things one-dimensionally. This isn't Mario Brothers on regular Nintendo. There's other things going on here. Again, we know who the enemy is. We know who wants war. We know who wants a constant war. And it isn't us, but it is the Jewish lobby. And it is the Khazarian Mafia, and it is, again, Zionism. That is the problem. Not to mention, and I'm sure the Rambo and Friends guys will bring this up, the whole walk of fame, so to speak, the presidential walk outside of the White House that leads up to the Oval Office. Donald Trump now, of course, has plaques underneath these pictures of these presidents, including, of course, 2 plaques underneath the picture of the Joe Biden auto pen. It's too funny. Here's the one he has underneath Barack Obama's picture. Again, this is trolling 101. You wouldn't do this if you didn't know you could get away with it. And again, some alternative news outlets, or not even alternative, just mainstream news outlets like CNN, of course, are either criticizing this or not even talking about it. Seems like something you'd want to talk about. Again, as I've said before, they don't even bring up the auto pen picture of Joe Biden. It's highly insulting, but that's because it's supposed to be. Here's what it says under Barack Obama's picture. Quote, Barack Hussein Obama was the first black president, a community organizer, one-term senator from Illinois, and one of the most divisive political figures in American history. As president, he passed the highly ineffective, unaffordable Care Act, quote unquote, resulting in his party losing control of both House of Congress and the election of the largest House Republican majority since 1946. He presided over a stagnant economy, approved the one-sided Iran nuclear deal, and signed the one-sided Paris Climate Accords, both of which were later terminated by President Donald J. Trump. And then the plaque below that says, under Obama, the ISIS caliphate spread across the Middle East. Libya collapsed into chaos, and Russia invaded and took Crimea in Ukraine. He crippled small businesses with crushing regulation and environmental red tape, devastated American coal miners, and weaponized the IRS and federal bureaucracies against his political opponents. Obama also spied on the 2016 presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump. He presided over the creation of the Russia hoax, the worst political scandal in American history. He handicapped successor Hillary Rodham Clinton, Hillary Rodham Clinton, would then lose the presidency to Donald J. Trump, unquote. That's hilarious. That's funny. And again, he's saying all of it because it's true. All of that's true. Which begs the question, what's going to come out in the next 6 months to a year about Barack Obama? The fake election. All of it. The coup, and of course, the whole treason, sedition, and conspiracy to commit both. He's got plaques under their fake pictures, for God's sakes. It's too funny. Joe Biden. Here's what it says under him. Again, underneath the auto pen. Sleepy Joe Biden was by far the worst president in American history, taking office as a result of the most corrupt election ever seen in the United States. Biden oversaw a series of unprecedented disasters that brought our nation to the brink of destruction. His policies caused the highest inflation ever recorded, leading the U.S. dollar to lose more than 20% of its value in 4 years. His Green New scam surrendered American energy dominance, and by abolishing the southern border, Biden let 21 million people from all over the world pour into the United States, including from prisons, jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums. His Afghan disaster was among the most humiliating events in American history and resulted in the number of 13 brave American service members, with many others gravely wounded. Seeing Biden's devastation, the heinous Russia invaded Ukraine, and Hamas terrorists launched on October 7th attack on Israel, unquote. He also has one here for Bill Clinton. Let me zoom in on this guy and read this one. Bill Clinton served as Attorney General and Governor of Arkansas before winning the presidency in what was called a major upset over President George H.W. Bush. As president, Clinton signed crime and welfare legislation, which was passed with the leadership of Republicans in Congress. He approved NAFTA, which President Donald J. Trump would later terminate, and being bad for the United States, welcomed China into the World Trade Organization, and oversaw NATO's military intervention in Bosnia and Kosovo. Despite the scandals that plagued his presidency, the tech boom of the late 1990s resulted in excellent economic growth, which helped him and Republicans in Congress deliver balanced budgets for the first time in decades. In 2016, President Clinton's wife, Hillary, lost the presidency to President Donald J. Trump, exclamation point. Again, it's comical, And it's a good time. But I also understand that people would look at this and they'd say, see, this is what they're doing on purpose to distract the so-called low IQ MAGA voters. That they're doing something like this to basically give them a little piece of candy before Christmas while subverting them, from underneath and through the back door with the so-called Jays. That it's just a little something, again, to satisfy some individuals and whatever else, whatever reasoning they think they might have, that it's all a psychological operation just to distract people from other horrible things that are taking place. Again, I don't think that's the case. I think the non-media not talking about this is really the most revealing part about it. It couldn't be more obvious that it's absolutely hilarious. Again, he's trolling the ever-living hell out of them. And he did it with the media the other day. Tucker Carlson was on Napolitano's show and said, well, I've heard from some people inside that Congress met and we're going to war. And that he's going to declare war on this country, that country, for this reason or that reason. That's not what Americans want, but I've been told, and I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's what he's going to say. And he didn't say anything like that. I didn't even watch it. But I know that he didn't say anything like that. He gave some money to the military. He talked about the economic boom, allegedly. Again, what the next 6 months has to offer, what's coming around the corner. He's trying to be optimistic, I think, as best he can, because I think that the bad players, by and large, are out of the way. And now we're going to see what actually takes place. But this next 6 months had better be a kick in the teeth for a lot of people, because we want accountability, as Dr. Robin McCutcheon said, and I agree, we need accountability before the 250th anniversary of our country. Americans need to see what that looks like. And they need to know exactly why these individuals are being held accountable. And as it's said in Q Post time and time again, crimes against children are going to be the thing that unite the people of this country. Yeah, you're not going to get everybody. 4 to 6% are lost forever. They'll never wake up. That's fine. If they want to defend politicians that they voted for and the crimes against children that they engaged in, then they will look terrible for the rest of their lives in doing so. To that, I say let them do it. Go for it. Try to defend the indefensible. Because in doing so, they're also going to admit that they didn't know what they were voting for, who they were voting for, or what they were supporting this entire time. And that's going to be humiliating. And then everybody eats crow. Again, I don't have a problem with that either. So the war rages on here. I don't think it's going to stop. It isn't. There's going to be, again, more false flags, more psychological operations. It's going to continue to take place. I would just encourage individuals, again, to not look at everything at face value. That it is a military operation and there have to be other things that are taking place behind the scenes, that some of which we can pick up on because we're given hints and we're shown particular things which are completely out of the ordinary. And at the exact same time, there are going to be things that we are not told. Like Dan Bongino leaving the FBI. Why was he there in the first place? Why is he now leaving? Why is he now going back to podcasting after the new year? Are there things that he can now talk about? Are there things that he can say? Are there things that he cannot say? He wasn't there very long. So it's going to be interesting. Again, getting another voice out there in the so-called podcasting realm to wake people up to how dirty things really are, that'll be interesting. But I would also encourage, again, individuals to stay away as I would say, not as frequent, but I've certainly brought it up on the show. Of course, the whole Candace Owens nonsense. I would encourage people to stay away from that, because that's not productive, because she's not even talking about anything that's actually truthful. Charlie Kirk's not dead. That's number one. The whole thing was fake. And she's arguing with Piers Morgan on Piers Morgan's show about, again, critical thinking and asking questions and everything else, which is good, and that's what people should do, but they should also stop spoon bending and say, well, TPUSA was involved, or they weren't, or this, that, and the other. And well, it just didn't happen. That's all. It didn't happen. They were involved in making it look like it happened when it didn't. That was TPUSA's involvement. Question is why? And for how long? And how long was this planned? And 1,000 other things. So again, every country is at war, including, I might add, Australia. Let me play this piece of audio because, again, here's the Hegelian dialectic in basically a college class 101 as to exactly how it operates. You run a false flag. You tell everybody again that anti-Semitism is at an all-time high. White supremacy is the problem. You arrest a few brown people or dark people who may or may not be Jewish themselves. Individuals who may or may not have been killed. Even they have quote-unquote Holocaust survivors dying in that whole, whatever it was, Bondi Beach so-called shooting. Again, how many times do they have to throw that in to every single story? Seems a bit strange. There's always a Holocaust survivor who ends up dying. Weird. But here is Chris Minns, M-I-N-N-S, the New South Wales Premier. And again, this is him basically laying out exactly what they have planned for gun control and speech control and movement control and you name it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is full-blown communism. 100% full-blown communism in Australia. And I do not believe that this is kayfabe. This is real. Give this a listen in 3, 2, 1.
I'm also here to report that on the 22nd and 23rd of December, the government will call back the New South Wales Parliament to deal with urgent legislation that we believe is required pre-Christmas to keep the community safe and ensure there's unambiguous laws in place when it comes to public safety. Firstly, in relation to firearms legislation in the state, we are proposing a bill which hasn't been finally drafted, but we will share with the opposition as soon as possible to cap the number of firearms, to reclassify straight pull-up and pump-action shotguns, to look at reducing magazine capacity for shotguns, for prohibiting belt-fed magazines in those shotguns, and crucially removing NCAT as an appeal mechanism once a designation has been made about withdrawing a license from the registered authority. I also want to say today that I am firmly of the view, having spoken with many community members, not just from the Jewish community, but right across Sydney, that protests right now in Sydney would be incredibly terrible for our community. In fact, they would rip apart our community, particularly protests about international events. I completely understand that there are people concerned about what's happening overseas, and of course they've got every right to be concerned, but my worry is about what's happening in Sydney right now. We'll look at, my concern is that a mass demonstration in this combustible situation with our multicultural community could light a flame that would be impossible to extinguish. So we're looking at reforms whereby when there is a terrorism designation in the state, the police commissioner may not accept applications for protests on the grounds that it will both stretch police resources and secondly, add to community disharmony and as a result, a combustible situation in the state.
We believe that there's a concern. We're doing this for your safety, so saith government. Every time. Again, gun restriction, ammo restriction, capacity restriction, movement constriction, expression constriction, that's 100% communism. He also just inadvertently, and I know he didn't mean to do it, but he did it anyway, he just proved that multiculturalism doesn't work. He just proved it. He just said it. The reason that it's too funny. The reason that we don't want protests to take place or people to take to the streets, and that of course, the reason that we won't be accepting any petitions to have any kind of a demonstration is because we don't want different cultures getting together and or clashing. Well, if you don't want that, then why do you invite it into your country? He just admitted that multiculturalism fails. quite an admission. Quite an admission. But I think there are a great deal of Australians who are waking up. Again, just like individuals in the UK, individuals in Europe, the waking up continues. You have individuals outside of the headquarters right now of the European Union setting things on fire. They've shown up with it's farmers specifically have shown up with their tractors. They're dumping manure. A number of different places they're doing what they do because they know again that they're being targeted by government all of the time, being taxed, being told to give up their land, submit to government no matter what, etc., etc. It's a powder keg, and it's all just, again, it's always right there on the brink of just blowing to pieces. But something has to give here. There's got to be some serious, not just regional and or countrywide accountability. There's got to be some worldwide accountability here. It has to happen. Too many people feel like pawns on a chessboard. It's time all the pawns get together because there's too many of them, and there's only a king and a queen. Only one of those pieces each. So something has to give. I don't know what else to say regarding it. I just hope that the right thing ends up happening. I'd love to see these institutions crumble. Again, I heard, or I didn't just hear it, I saw it the other day, apparently, that the UN is being doged. That would be nice. That their budgets are being cut. And one of the major reasons for it, whether people know it or not, is child trafficking. The UN has always been one of the largest child trafficking organizations in the history of the world. So, with their budgets being cut and Donald Trump sitting on the board of their war commission or what have you, well, then that would pretty much neuter them as far as they're concerned, and that's a very good move. So again, in a lot of the chaos and even in a lot of the psychological Operation Kayfabe, there's still plenty of things to look at positively and plenty of things rather to celebrate as well, because again, I think a great deal is happening even behind the scenes that we cannot see. Now let me move on to education here. Let me revisit this very quickly too, because this is again one of the moves that happens in this business that is remarkably disgusting. But you just have to stay on it because these individuals think that if you don't stay on it, you'll just go away. And every now and again, you have to remind these individuals that, well, you're not going away. You may recall again the story involving the suicide of a high school, I believe, freshman, if I'm not mistaken, sophomore, freshman, if memory serves, in Upper Arlington in that school district in central Ohio. And allegedly how an Indian female board member was basically invited the football team over to her house, and then he made a comment saying that the house smelled like curry or something like that, and then one of the children of the board member apparently took offense to it, so the story goes. Again, I wasn't there, I don't know. But, and then the particular student who made the comment was then labeled, of course, as a racist and picked on in school and singled out, and the board member wanted him allegedly expelled from the district and so on and so on and so on. And then shortly thereafter, the male student ended up killing himself with his parents' own firearm. And then everybody's attention turned to the female board member as being the problem, potentially being the individual who again incited a lot of this division, which led to that particular act. And then, of course, I communicated with some individuals that were in that general area, and then I made my own open records request regarding the emails of said board member. I made that request back in, I can get you the exact date here, November 16th. So we're talking just over a month ago. And I had a back and forth with their treasurer's office because they didn't want to give me any emails. They kept saying that my request was too broad. Well, it's an overbroad request, and we can't do that because it's overbroad. And then I narrowed it, big time. I said, I don't just want her emails from whatever, July to the November 1st or whatever my exact request was, I narrowed it down to 2 weeks. I said, we'll do this 2 weeks at a time. I want all of her emails to and from her within the first 2 weeks of the month of July, when school, of course, is not in session. Should be a rather easy request to make, which, by the way, side note real quick, regarding the local school district where I live, Talawanda City Schools, this will show you the hypocrisy and unprofessionalism of treasurers and their offices when it comes to open records requests. You may recall a former school board member on the school board in the town where I live. Once he resigned, he was making open records requests for all of the emails throughout an entire calendar year, of female board member Dawn King. His request was just that. It wasn't specific. It was, I want all of the emails to or from Dawn King throughout an entire 365-day period. And the treasurer obliged without question. It wasn't necessarily narrowed down to anything specific. It was just, no problem. I'll just have to send them to you in 9 separate PDFs. Just like that. Bang. Request made, request accepted. For a former school board member. But if an average citizen has a concern, no, you don't get to make such a broad request. So regarding Upper Arlington, I narrowed the request, and then they got back to me and they said, sorry, that doesn't work. I got back to them and I said, yes, it does, and I'll narrow it even again. I want all of the emails to and from that board member from any other board member and or the superintendent and treasurer. In fact, my exact request went like this. I said, quote, we will still do this in 2-week increments. See amended request. I simply said, quote, we are requesting all of the emails sent to or from this Nadai Sitani gal, to or from any other board members, the superintendent, or the treasurer, and from non-district affiliated accounts, specifically from July 1st, 2025 through July 15th, 2025. There is nothing unreasonable about that. But they're criminal organizations. And they don't want people asking questions, not ever. And they don't want people making requests, not ever. So they basically didn't get back to me. That was on November 21st. Almost a month ago. They never got back to me. And so then I sent them the following this past Tuesday. I said, quote, you have had ample time to comply with this lawful and easy request. If you fail to adhere to this request this week, 12/15/25, the State Attorney General's office will be receiving this email thread. Comply with the request. Thank you for your time. Almost immediately, the same day, I got a request back from their law firm or someone affiliated with their law firm, one of the school district's law firms. They said the following, good afternoon. I am writing on behalf of Upper Arlington Schools with regard to your request for public records. Your November 19th and 21st, 2025 requests are both overbroad for the reasons previously explained by the district treasurer CFO. Mr. Guestfield has nevertheless directed me to review the records for confidential student information and or other legally protected information and to then produce those records to you. I will send you those records in batches in order to expedite the process. Alternatively, if you would like to suggest search terms, the production will be more efficient. A Jessica Philemond, attorney at law, of Scott and Shreven, or Scott Shreven LLP, based out of Columbus, Ohio. You see, do you see how this works? All they had to do was just adhere to it the first time. And then I have to threaten them. Because I'm narrowing the request to, again, just the people within the district within a 2-week period. That's not a difficult request in the middle of the summer when school's not even in session, which theoretically occurred even before their July board meeting. And they still didn't want to give it to me. But I had to threaten them by telling them that I was going to send them screenshots of the entire thing, the entire email thread, and that the state AG's office would tell them, which they would because they'd have to, that they aren't complying with Ohio law. But they don't want to get their wrist slapped by the AG's office. So what do you think I'm going to get back? I can take a guess. I'm probably going to get back a giant request that's loaded with redactions. In fact, I bet entire pages are redacted because they don't even want to bother going through the particular names of children and or whatever else and redact just that. They'll redact entire pages. This is your tax dollars at work, right here. This is government in a nutshell. If a crime was committed by one of their own, they don't want anybody to know about it. If they were even involved in the slightest, allegedly, they don't want anybody to know about it. I'm the one trying to hold people accountable. But when you try to hold government accountable, look what happens. If it can happen to a president of the United States, and it can happen to a citizen like me who's, not necessarily widely known, people know who I am, but it's not, I'm not famous or anything. That right there should prove to everybody how the long arm of the government works and everybody in it. So what'll happen next is I'll get that massive redacted, email list. It probably won't be a ton of emails. It can't be. Middle of the summer, July, before a board meeting. I mean, it's possible there's a number of emails in there, but it won't matter. Then I'll make the same request for the next 2 weeks, and then I'll do the next 2 weeks, and then I'll do the next 2 weeks, and I'll do them all the way through the month of November. Because I'm looking, and they don't want people looking. Which means why? Because you're hiding things, because that's what you do. These are law firms working on behalf of these criminal organizations called American school districts. People need to wrap their arms around that. Because when they send their children to these places, that's what they're subjecting them to. They're subjecting them to a criminal organization. Time and time again. Let me give you a couple of other examples, and then I've got a doozy of a story that was sent my way, specifically from an independent journalist in Idaho, regarding, again, a very corrupt school district, and that's putting it mildly. But first, before I get to that, there was this. This is from Breitbart. Education Secretary Linda McMahon calls for Tim Walz to resign over reports of education fraud. Well, he should resign for 1,000 reasons, but yeah, why not this too? In a letter addressed to Walz on Monday, McMahon pointed out that Walz has served as the state's governor since 2019, and during that time, his careless lack of oversight and abuse of the welfare system has attracted fraudsters from around the world, especially from Somalia. McMahon went on to explain that 1,834 ghost students, quote unquote, in the state were discovered to have received $12.5 million in taxpayer-funded grants and loans. In the letter, McMahon went on to state that given Walz's dereliction of the office entrusted to him, she was imploring him to resign and make way for more capable leadership. Quote, at the beginning of this year, the U.S. Department of Education became aware of the fraudulent college applicants, especially concentrated in Minnesota, were gaming the federal post-secondary education system to collect money that was intended for young Americans to help them afford college, McMahon said in the letter. We call them the fraudsters ghost students because they were not ID verified and often did not live in the United States, or they simply did not exist. In Minnesota, 1,834 ghost students were found to have received $12.5 million in taxpayer-funded grants and loans, which means it went to adults, or it went right to Tim Walz. It says they collected checks from the federal government, shared a small portion of the money with the college, and pocketed the rest without attending the college at all. He should go to jail. And everybody affiliated with it should go to jail. Again, military is the only way. This has to be a military operation. The Office of the Treasury is looking into this. Everybody's looking into this, and she's writing the letter and sending it to him because they've already got his ass in a sling. He's already done. They wouldn't be doing this if they didn't already have everything that they needed to do to go after him permanently, which is exactly, I think, what they're going to do. I think this is what 2026 has in store for us, God willing. Here's another one. Speaking of trans kids and perverse books and all that nonsense, this is from thenewrepublic.com. North Carolina ousts entire library board over book with trans kid. Again, I say good. This is North Carolina's Randolph County, and they chose to dissolve its entire library board rather than allow a book about a trans child to sit on their shelves. Last week, the County Board of Commissioners voted 3-2 to dismiss every single member of the library board, just weeks after they declined to reshelve or remove a picture book titled Call Me Max, a story about a transgender boy who wants to be called by his chosen name in class. Okay. Here's the thing. This is exactly, again, how you attempt to get rid of the rot. Yes, you can get rid of the thing that they're arguing over, which you should. The books should be burned, and I think most people with common sense know that. But you have to get rid of the people who are allowing these things to consistently take place. And then, of course, you have to basically make a giant story about it to tell other people, if you plan on supporting these kinds of perversions, go ahead and take the position, because we'll cut you loose as soon as you do. Now, of course, individuals applying for the position will try to fake it and hide it, and they'll say that they don't support it, and then once they're on the board, they'll slowly start to support it and do all of those scheming and meddling and lying and trickery things that they do. But this is another reason, again, why library boards should only exist to have morally sound books within them. But this, again, is showing people how small the problem is, but also how big the problem is. It's this insidious, and it's, frankly, always been, certainly I would say, over at least the last 30 years, and it's not getting better. But I applaud these people. This is a good move. This is what has to happen. You can't just get rid of the books. You have to get rid of the people who are peddling them. You have to get rid of that mind virus, because that really is the virus. It's the people. It's the people who are 100% fine sexually grooming children and confusing them and ripping them away from their own parents. Again, it's not that the vast majority of students would walk into a library and be like, hey, where's the book about the kid who cuts his genitals off? Can I have that one? Most kids wouldn't even reach for that book, let alone spend a moment on it. But as we all know, if you plant a seed and you give it enough time, that seed will grow. And unfortunately, this is the satanic seed that continues to be planted on a regular basis. In fact, getting back to the Jays just very quickly, let me play this. This happened this week also, where you had congressmen and women at the Embassy of Israel in Washington, D.C., coming up to the lectern and basically, again, saying that anybody who attempts to destroy anything that they support is an anti-Semite and that we should all be destroyed. That's basically what they were saying. Now, there's a particular female demonic gal here who, again, I don't know her name, but I came across this clip, and again, she was right there, and she was up at the lectern giving this little rendition. And give her a listen because she's a psycho. But again, they have no problem hiding their hate for people like us. So give her a listen in 3, 2, 1.
That thanks to Google and SEO will follow you for the rest of your life. When you look for a job, when you look for a spouse, when you look for a nanny, when you look for anything, our work will always be documented. Again, thanks to Google and SEO. In corporations where DEI leaders smeared Israel, excused Hamas, we pressured CEOs. Some resigned, many were terminated, but policies were changed, thankfully.
They cry out in pain as they strike you. It's what they do. And they have no problem telling you that they have influence, that they bully, that they push people around. They do whatever they have to do to try to get people fired because, again, they are the creators of communism because that's communism. And again, it goes on in the American K-12 school system. It goes on in every line of work. It's HR policy, theoretically. But they're openly saying, again, that if you disagree with anything that they say, they are tracking us, they are following us, and then they are putting our names and our social media platforms everywhere for everyone to see, so that if somebody attempts to get a job, or in their case, even a spouse, then their spouse is going to know who we really are, and they'll ruin a relationship. They have nothing better to do. These people, again, they are gross. They are evil. They are demonic. And they're telling you as much right to your face and our faces. Now there's this. Here's the Iowa School District. Again, this was an email that was sent to me by a listener of the show, a Casey Whalen. If I'm saying his last name correctly, Casey, I hope that I am. And thank you for listening to the show. They emailed me and they said the following. Hello, Dr. Brooks. I really enjoy your show since I found it about a year ago. I'm friends with Dave Gary. I'm an investigative independent journalist in Idaho and have covered the LGBTQ agenda in local schools, exposing local human rights networks and nonprofits locally in, let's see, how do you pronounce that? Coeur d'Alene, if I'm saying that right, Idaho, probably not, my apologies, and around the state. I recently interviewed Sierra Clark, a substitute teacher at Rock Creek Elementary in Twin Falls, Idaho. She was fired after reporting fellow employee and first grade teacher of her son had posted questionable videos on social media. She reported these videos anonymously and was shortly fired thereafter by the Twin Falls School District. The teacher in question was transferred to a different school in the district, a high school, teaching drama. You can probably figure out where this is going. He said, can't make this shit up. Here's my interview with Sierra Clark. If you'd like to chat with her or book her, rather, let me know. The interview is listed below in the post. And of course, he exists on X. And his X account, I'll get you that here. It is at Casey, CASEY _WHALEN. I reposted this on my X account, and here's what I want to do. I want to play this. This is 19 minutes long. This is Casey describing this up front. And then this is Sierra Clark describing her particular situation regarding this. This is an interesting one. And there's some recourse that she has here. But as I emailed Casey back, I said that the recourse that she basically has to do with filing a formal complaint with the state through their state education department regarding the licensure of this said teacher. Because he's clearly violating the codes of conduct, and I think that goes without saying, as you're going to hear in this description. This is 19 minutes long. I wouldn't normally play something quite this long, but this is an important one. So give this a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Today we're joined by Sierra Clark, and she'll share her story about how she was fired from the Rock Creek Elementary School in the Twin Falls School District for anonymously reporting a teacher for inappropriate social media posts. I'm Casey Whalen. Thank you for joining me today on the Whalen Report. All right. Well, we're joined today with Sierra Clark. Thank you for joining us today, Sierra.
Yes, thank you.
Sarah? Is it Sierra or Sierra? Sarah.
Sierra.
Sierra.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you were recently. We found out that there were these videos on social media that Heather Scott essentially shared, drew attention to. That's how I first found out about your story, and I didn't quite understand everything initially, but to see some of these videos was very questionable. To have a teacher at a school in Twin Falls, correct? Twin Falls School District.
Yes.
And how long have you been a teacher at Rock Creek Elementary?
I was about there for a school year and a half. But I wasn't just there. I was a substitute teacher. I wasn't just there like randomly. I was there nearly every day. I had a great relationship with this principal, with the other teachers, with kids, with parents. It was more of almost a full-time job. And I plan to have my own classroom there within the next, hopefully, school year. But not any longer.
And you were technically a substitute teacher at that school?
Yes, I was a substitute teacher. I was in school to get my teaching degree. That would have been done by this end of this
coming year, and planned to have my own classroom there. Hopefully, it was going to be the next school year, so 26 to 27.
Oh, so you're just about ready to become an actual teacher.
Yes.
So it's obviously what has happened since that's delayed that process a bit.
Oh yeah, I mean, really, this whole situation has opened my eyes and has really made me question if this is what I even want to do. What is this a system I want to be a part of? Because after what I've seen and the way things that have been handled, no, I don't want to be associated with these types of individuals.
All right. And so let's tell people, I mean, some people obviously are not going to know about your story. So tell us briefly what happened towards the end of September of this year, beginning of October.
Right. So once again, when I was substituting, my son's first grade teacher, I had worked in his classroom several times. And just over the course of the first couple months of the school year, we're about 2 months in, I just started to notice, I'm like, this guy is pretty lost. And his fellow first grade teachers even mentioned to me that as well. I started getting concerns about how my son is being taught. Nothing crazy, just if this guy actually knows how to teach. I brought my concerns up with the principal, and she kind of dismissed it, said, "Oh, well, let's give him more of a shot." And I'm thinking, when you get hired as a teacher, you should know what you're doing. You should have a basic understanding. And that's when I took it upon myself to look up who this teacher was. What are his credentials? What is his background? Because he made it seem like he was pretty skilled in being a teacher. I typed his name into Google, and one of the first things that popped up was the teacher's name saying that he's a lover of cross-dressing in wigs. And it was a Facebook post, so I clicked on it. From there, I was able to find countless videos that took me to an array of different social media websites, from Patreon to YouTube to TikTok to Instagram to X, of where all these videos were posted, and then later on finding comments on Reddit as well. In these videos, the teacher's in his underwear. He's walking around, and it appears he has like jelly or something in his underwear dripping down his leg, and then he turns around and wipes his behind. Another one, he's sitting at a desk with a box of tissues and lotion, obviously depicting or talking about masturbation or alluding to it. Then the video zooms into like the crotch of a video game character before he reaches for his tissues and lotion. Political ones where people are getting shot in the head. Just others, lots of sexual and political content, which to me is concerning because, for one, why are you a teacher showing yourself this way online? And what is your interest in working in elementary school when you have such extreme views?
Oh, 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 oh.
Especially those considering where we live, we are fairly conservative. And if he's online comparing conservatives to Nazis as he was dressed up in Hitler, how are you going to teach children fairly in that sense when you have these extreme views online? So anyways, I reported these videos to the
did anonymously also.
Yes, anonymously. I made a fake email address and everything, and I just submitted these videos, so everything that I had found up at that point. Now, within a couple hours, some of these videos started getting removed off the internet, and I hadn't heard anything back. So I'm thinking, okay, great. Like, obviously, something's going on. This guy knows, and surely he's not going to be there tomorrow, and they're going to do an investigation. So the following day, I went to work there. I was working as a substitute for a different classroom, and I noticed him still there, and everything seemed to be normal.
This is from October 1st?
This is October now 2nd. So the following day after I reported these videos. So October 2nd, everything seemed to be fine. I called into the district after school and spoke with the director of elementary education, which is who I sent the videos to. she proceeds to tell me that, these videos, there's nothing wrong with them. They're freedom of speech, which I do agree to a certain extent. But there's a code of ethics that teachers have to follow, and undermining community trust is a big bullet point for that. And to me, this undermines community trust. If you have a teacher talking and joking about masturbation online, walking around in his underwear online, and continue to have this online presence. From there, within about 2 hours, all of my shifts were removed. From what I'm assuming, they recognize my voice, and that's kind of where it. That's a good start, I'd say, to how this all began.
And so it sounds like one of the reasons that they would say that you were fired, even though you did this anonymously, was that you said the F word. But in context, what did you really say?
I said something along the lines like, "Are you effing kidding me?" Because this lady was going on to tell me, "Oh, this guy, he's a kind of an artsy guy. He's a little drama guy, so this is kind of just what he does in his spare time," which, okay, that's fine. There's plenty of great actors out there, but what's the artistic context to jelly dripping down your leg and like reaching down your underwear? Like that's a little weird to me. So
you had your child was in his class, right?
Yeah, my child was in his class. He was a first grade teacher. So this is pretty extreme for someone who's around 5 to 6, 7-year-olds at the oldest. These are very much little kids. They have nothing but trust in adults at that age and think everybody's really a good person. So to me, it's very peculiar to have someone like that around children. So.
Okay, yeah, I can see your concern, and so you ended up taking your child out of the class.
Yeah, well, I kind of had no point, or I had very many reasons to. But the following day, so this is now October 3rd, I had requested a meeting with the principal and all the teachers, including this teacher himself. The principal wouldn't let me talk to him for whatever reason. I think we know why. And I came in with my husband. I started playing a video for this principal and the director of elementary education, and they immediately told me to leave their office and ultimately trespassed me about an hour later at the police at my door. For what reason I left voluntarily, I left just fine. I was not yelling or cussing at them. I was visibly upset. I was heartbroken because I admired this principal and she felt the same. But as soon as they realized that I wasn't just going to follow orders or that I was apparently an enemy, they treated me like one. So it's been very heartbreaking to see the response for people that I greatly admired. Later on that evening, October 3rd,
okay.
October. I'll backpedal a little. October 3rd, I did reach out to the superintendent of the Twin Falls School District, hoping, I'm like, maybe this guy has no idea what's going on. Surely he's going to feel concerned that not only these teachers this teacher having these videos online, but then now his employees trespassing a mother who's concerned. So I had sent him emails. He responded back within that night, reiterating what they've all said, that, this guy, it's just freedom of speech and so on. So then I took it upon myself to reach out to the Twin Falls School Board. They granted me access to do an executive session, which basically means you can talk to them behind closed doors because they don't want the public to find out what's going on with their employees. I did so. And sure enough, Mr. Actor Man comes walking in to do his whole spiel as well. So unfortunately, I didn't get to hear what he got to say because I would have loved to, but I got to do my whole thing. I said, I have everything you need to look this over. I have Reddit comments. I have videos. I have screenshots with his photo in it, with his face, everything you would possibly need in this scenario. I sent them the whole Google Drive of it. And that was it, right? I get an update about a week later from a different parent saying that they have removed this teacher from the classroom. And I thought, oh, okay, great. They've taken care of it. So I did submit an ethics review to our Board of Education, which I've still heard nothing back from. They keep insisting that they're sending me the results, and it's been close to 3 months now. So not a single word. And they trying to think of where I was going with that. Oh, okay. So what ended up happening, I checked the teacher credential website for the state of Idaho. You can type in any teacher's name and you can see where their license has been ran. It's essentially like checking out a book at a library, like a barcode scan, and you see where it is. So I typed in his name and it showed that his teaching credentials has been ran for our local high school instead. And now he's a drama teacher and he's an English teacher. And I thought, well, isn't that ironic? Now you've seen how this guy is acting performances, and now you want that to be role modeled to kids now. And he's still within the district. They didn't do any sort of, as far as I know, reprimands for what he's done. And they basically try to make it seem like they handled it when they really didn't. They just gave this guy a fresh start so the heat could get off of him. From there, my dear friend Heather Scott did post his videos and to bring light to this, because this is a common tactic these school districts use. When they want to just hide stuff, they just transfer the teacher for somebody else's problem, right? So that's kind of where it's been.
And so you were also served a cease and desist from the teacher?
Yeah. About 2 weeks after this whole initial process, I was served a cease and desist from said teacher, saying that I was telling people he was like a pedophile, or I think that was all of it, that I was slandering him, calling him a pedophile, which I have no recollection of ever saying that. I've never gone online and posted anything. And it's just wild. I mean, you can, to me, this is a red flag more than anything. Obviously, I know he's not a registered sex offender, so I can't say that he is a pedophile, but it is very concerning to me if you're a teacher and you're online in your underwear around and then you're around little kids during the daytime. Like that's strange.
Yeah, well, I can see why you're concerned and why, some other people would be concerned. Were there any other parents that you know of that removed their kids from the school or from the classroom?
I believe some of them did ask to have their child moved to another classroom for certain subjects. But what I've come to notice is that a lot of these parents are too afraid to speak up. Now, I don't know if they're afraid that their kids will be retaliated against, or if they just don't want to look like a problem, or if they don't want to be excluded from the little group, or whatever it may be. But you have to advocate for your kids at the end of the day. And sure, there's probably parents who are totally fine with teachers having this type of life on the outside, and that's okay. But at the same time, you should be able to bring up valid reasons of why you could be concerned and not be trespassed off school property because of it. It's like they really just have a gross amount of power to do whatever they want if you don't agree with them. And
go ahead.
Yeah, it's truly heartbreaking to see how this has all came out, because it didn't need to go this far. So
yeah, and so I think you did allude to it, but you were let go from the school district on October 3rd. Mm-hmm. So
October 2nd, yes, yeah,
on October 2nd. On the 2nd, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It was obviously a shock. You weren't expecting that.
No, not at all, because like I said, the relationship that I had with that school, you would never think in a million years. Just the week before, the principal ran into my mother and father-in-law at a bar when they were out here visiting. And when she found out that those were my in-laws, she just had nothing but amazing things to say, saying that I'm everything that a teacher should be, and they're so grateful for me. And then the moment I guess I step out of bounds with them, I'm just a crazy person, which is I had very valid reasons to be concerned. Now I get that maybe some people are not as outspoken as me, but that's who I am, I guess.
Well, thanks for what you're doing. I mean, you stood up for your child, which is very commendable, and now you're continuing on. You're going to the school board meetings, and you're
Yes.
talking about the books in the schools, and you found there's 201 books currently in these school libraries that are sexual in nature, and so you want to get those taken out of the libraries. But you're learning that's a process, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I had a whole list of books that are publicly available just in the Twin Falls School District public school libraries alone. I know many other districts, especially up in northern Idaho, when someone has brought this list to them, they've taken upon themselves to do a self-review. These people are not as easy to work with as you would hope, but I already knew that. So they want me to do a review of 201 books and put in the petition for them. I don't think they realize that really just makes it more work for them. It only takes me a couple minutes to do. So today's day 3 of that process. So I hope they're having fun with that, because we got a lot more to go.
All right. Well, keep up with what you're doing, and we will be. I'm trying to get the body camera footage and the 911 audio, so we'll release those once we get that. So thank you for your courage, and thank you for joining me today, Sierra.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
First of all, the sexual audio, so to speak, that you heard toward the beginning of that was actual audio that was a part of one of that school teacher's videos that he was producing. So I'll get into everything in just a little bit here, but first let me play the body cam footage that he also has affiliated with this, where, of course, the police officer called and then approached the property of Sierra here. So give this a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, Sierra. This is Officer Nay with Twin Falls Police.
Hi.
Hey, I got called over to Rock Creek by the principal and the elementary director, Mrs. Nancy Murphy.
Yeah.
They relayed kind of the events to me and said that they asked you to make sure not to come back to the property.
Oh, absolutely. No, I have no reason to go back.
Okay.
My kid doesn't go there anymore. Yeah, I got a little upset because I found nude pictures of my son's teacher online, and they defended it, saying it's free speech. So I was a little concerned by their but of course, it really didn't escalate too much. They kicked it up within like 2-3 minutes, and I waited until my husband was done. I guess he was the good guy in the situation. So, but yeah, no, I have no problem with it, and I have no issue of not going back just over there.
Okay, sounds good. On our end of things, we are obviously issuing a 1-year trespass for the property here.
Okay.
So if you'd like a copy of that, I can swing that by to you.
Yeah, if you'd like. I mean, I don't care. Are you right at the school right now?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, yeah. I just live like literally a street away. That's totally fine. Do you have my address?
Yeah. Is it
like a street
Yep.
up?
Right around the corner.
That's, if you don't mind.
Sure.
If you have time.
You betcha. I'll be right over in just a few minutes. Okay.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Hello. How are you?
Well, not too bad, I guess. If this is what my life has come to, then I guess it's okay. Can I just show you something, please? Can I please? Just so I'm not crazy. Right? This is my son's teacher, okay? I'll pause it real big. So, this is him sticking his hand in his pants. And this is all on his public Facebook page. Okay. There's also ones of him doing Hitler signs.
Okay. I'm gonna.
I know you don't care, but I'm just saying.
Well, it's not that. It's my understanding you've already reported all this anyways.
Yeah,
and
they
so,
said it was freedom of speech and artistic expression.
Yeah.
And
So this is just a notice of trespass.
Yeah.
If you go back on the property, it's an offense.
Yeah.
So it's good for a year, and
beautiful.
sounds like that's not an issue anyways. So
I got no problem with that.
I
Okay.
appreciate it.
All right, sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you. This
All
is all it is. I don't
Yep.
need anything.
Nope.
Cool.
Nope. Only an issue if, like I said, the street's fine, the sidewalk's fine, but not anything further than that. And so
Question:
parking lots, none of that.
If I had let's just say, just theoretical.
Uh-huh.
If I were on the other side of the street with a sign, just printed out of a picture of this man, is that allowed?
I will tell you, it wouldn't violate the trespass.
Okay. Is that allowed though legally?
I
I
can't.
don't want to go to jail. Obviously.
I get that.
But I
I
want to
can't.
inform parents of this guy is like.
I can't tell you for sure. There's so many. It's a gray area of what, like you, would have some areas of freedom of expression and where it crosses the line to be harassment. I don't know. Each situation would have to be kind of looked at independently, and so I will. Yeah.
But you probably advise against it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I would advise that definitely, the school board, and there's lots of appropriate ways to
Yeah.
voice your grievances.
I already did that. There was one of the ladies I was there with that was the director of the school board. And
Yeah.
She's fine with it. It's no big deal. There's videos of him pretending to masturbate and stuff. So my kids going there anyways. If that's what they're okay with, then
Yeah.
rid of this,
Yeah.
But okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thanks. All right.
There's a pedophile in a school district. No big deal. There's nothing I can do. So say the cop. Again, this is the system. Let me take a look at this first, though. This has to do again with the code of ethics regarding Idaho teachers. This was from Grok. I popped in the very basic scenario. In the state of Ohio, if perverse videos are made by a school teacher within Idaho, what codes of conduct have been violated by the teacher? The primary code of conduct, it says, potentially violated by the school teacher in Idaho creating perverse videos, assuming this refers to sexually explicit or adult-oriented content made on personal time and not involving illegal acts like child exploitation, is the Code of Ethics for Idaho Professional Educators administered by the Idaho State Department of Education's Professional Standards Commission, PSC. This code applies to all certified educators in the state, symbolizes their commitment to high standards and violations potentially leading to investigation, disciplinary action, or revocation/suspension of teaching certification. Relevant principles from the Code of Ethics. It says, while the code does not explicitly address creating adult content, the following principles could apply depending on the specifics. If the content becomes public, affects professional reputation, or impairs teaching effectiveness, violations are determined on a case-by-case basis by the PSC, which means, again, if it's been 3 months since they were notified, it would take longer. Potentially, again, a year plus, which is the problem. In fact, it is the problem. This is the problem that exists in every state, that things like this take too long when it comes to going after a person's licensure, let alone their employment status. The district, of course, should have fired the person, let alone placed them on unpaid administrative leave given the content of the videos, and that alone should have been enough. Even paid administrative leave for a little while before the district conducted their own investigation, backed them up with the codes of ethics, and then fired the person eventually. That shouldn't take 2 years. That shouldn't take 2 months. That should take 2 weeks, tops. It should, take 2 days. They violated Principle 1, professional conduct, requires educators to abide by all federal law and local law and statutes. If the videos involve illegal activity, then that, of course, violates obscenity laws, which it kind of alludes to that. There's Principle 4, professional integrity, requires exemplifying honesty and integrity in professional practice if the content undermines public trust in the educator's character or leads to misrepresentation of their professional image. It could be seen as a breach Those subpoints focus more on falsification or dishonesty. And then it says principle 10 is professionalism. That should go without saying. He clearly violated that as well. Could also violate principle 5, which is funds and property using school computers to view or print pornography, or principle 3, alcohol and drug use or possession. But who's to say, because I don't know exactly what's in the videos. Point is, full revocation, suspension, denial, or conditions on certificate. And then individual districts, of course, have the ability to broaden morality clauses requiring teachers to maintain conduct that does not discredit the profession. Point is simple. They violated all of this. They didn't want to take action because they support his behavior. They're claiming free speech. But if it were anybody else, then they would pull the trigger on that person immediately. Certainly somebody who did not align with them from a political standpoint. This happens nationwide. This happens in every school district, no matter what. They engage in discretion. They are not lawyers. They don't pass it off to lawyers. They don't think that they can be sued for anything. They don't believe that parents will circle the wagons and sue them as a district. They should sue them, because the moment that they engage in a civil lawsuit, claiming again that the district violated the rights of these minors by having one of these particular teachers or somebody like this within, again, the classroom, somebody could chalk it up to a Title IX violation, which it very well could be. Certainly seems like it. He has sexually explicit or sexual innuendo content on the internet on his personal time, while also mirroring as a school teacher. That's a problem. He should have his license taken away from him quickly. That should go without saying also, but it should simply show the corruption from local police. They, of course, have no say as to what goes on regarding school policy. They certainly have nothing to do when it comes to state policy either, certainly from an education standpoint or a Department of Education standpoint. And then this gets wrapped up in the bureaucracy that exists, and then again, those wheels turn slowly, and then the likelihood of anything appropriate happening quickly is slim to none in slim left town. There's nothing else I can say about it. It seems, again, like she's covered every base that she can cover. The Sierra gal, there's no doubt about it. She went to the school, she was trespassed. Sound familiar? Certainly regarding the local situation in the town where I live. You bring up a serious concern and then you're trespassed because you're the problem. They want to paint the concerned parent who has a serious concern as being the problem, certainly in the eyes of the law, when clearly that's not the case. This is what they do. This is the lengths to which they will go. The way that they treated her, the way that they supported her and then stabbed her in the chest is exactly what they do. Regarding her situation, I'll end by saying this. And I don't mean to say this to say that she doesn't have any legal recourse. She very well does, as far as I'm concerned. And I would encourage her to use more AI systems and look up what legal recourse she has regarding the school district, and then, again, sue them pro se, and make sure and include every and all names of the employees within that district who were directly involved with the termination of course, her, Sierra, the teacher, and make sure that their names are plastered all over that lawsuit. They'll never get hired again, anywhere, which means they'll dig in like ticks and they'll protect one another. This is a perfect example, again, of how a class action lawsuit can flatten a school district. If the right parents get together, pool their resources, and get a right lawyer and a correct lawyer, you can go after them for violating their own policy. That's a breach of trust. That's a breach of contract. It's a breach of their oath, etc., etc. And they don't necessarily have blanket immunity because they are government. This was, again, workplace retaliation, and workplace retaliation and wrongful termination in the state of Idaho is against the law. Specifically also, as this AI system Grok here points out, whistleblowing. Certain whistleblowing. Again, you're talking about human rights. You're talking about minors in a position where they might be harmed by an individual, and that's what you're blowing the whistle on. Not to mention you filed a charge with the Ohio Department, or I'm sorry, the Idaho Department of Education, and that alone. Again, if that led to the termination, or the termination came even before that, therein lies the problem. But if you were alerting the district to concerning perverse videos by one of their own employees, and you were terminated after you brought this to their attention, that's a whistleblowing claim. So yes, she has recourse here. It's just a matter of whether or not she wants to engage in it. And if other individuals want to engage in it as well, and frankly, if I was her, I would contact the other parents who pulled their children out of that particular classroom with that particular male teacher, and I would pool your resources and I would go after the school district with a civil lawsuit. You'll win. They'll want to put it down because they didn't follow their own policy. Any lawyer can see that. They continue to keep this particular employee hired within the district, which makes it a district problem and even a district lawsuit, not just a school and or principal lawsuit, but I mean, it's the whole district. And that's basically the recourse you have. And then you can sit and wait and see what the state decides regarding their licensure in the future, because they have to take it because he violated their codes of ethics. So that's that. And I'll end it by saying this as well. This is the silver lining in this situation, which is really the blessing in the whole thing. And I'm not saying this because she doesn't have recourse. I just laid out that she does. You'll just hear some lawyers say this. And again, I'm not a lawyer again, but some of them would simply say this. They would say, take the high ground. You've just been shown a lesson from Jesus as to exactly what transpires here and how evil these people are and how you need to go in a different direction. Again, that's what not tough lawyers would say. It's not that they're wrong, they're not. They're right about that angle, and that's basically what I want to reiterate, is that in this entire process she was given a invaluable life lesson from Jesus Christ himself that she doesn't belong in the business, because she would get fired as a school teacher if she came across wrongdoing. Because that right there is the business in a nutshell. If you come across wrongdoing and you expose it, you will lose your job. It's that simple. Instead of getting rid of the wrongdoers who are engaging in the wrongdoing, they get rid of the people who highlight it and point it out. That's it. So now she won't become a school teacher, thank God. And thank God for her and her family and her child and their well-being, because again, she would lose her job in the future as a full-fledged teacher eventually. The business keeps the worst around, because that's the business from top to bottom. It's that way at the government level within the departments of education. It's that way at the HR level within school districts. It's that way within building administration and district administration. There's just no way around it. Not being affiliated with the business is a luxury and a blessing. Being affiliated with it is a curse, whether they know it or not. I'll end by saying this. I just wanted to say again, thank you to everyone for listening. I really do appreciate it. I read the comments. I greatly appreciate it. Again, I learn a great deal from all of you and your experiences and where you live and the emails that you send and the books that you send and the documentaries that you send my way for me to watch. And again, the comments you make and the experiences, of course, that you have where you live and all of it. I mean, I absorb it, hopefully as much as you absorb all of this. And here's to a good new year in the future. Again, in typical fashion, I will round out this last episode here by playing my favorite rendition of my favorite Christmas song. I wish everybody, again, a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. If the conversation here with Casey Putsch and I occur, then of course I'll bring it to you as fast as possible. And with that said, I would encourage everybody again to relax, be at peace as much as humanly possible, and I will catch you, ladies and gentlemen, in the future very shortly. Again, with that said, thanks for listening as always. Merry Christmas again, and peace.